You start, Mataji.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Guruji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Danvat Pranam, All Guru, Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhakti bhavati naistiki. Today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 12, Vrutrasura's Glorious Death. Text 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, desiring to give up his body, Vrutrasura considered death in the battle preferable to victory. O King Parikshit, he vigorously took up his trident and with great force attacked Lord Indra, the king of heaven, just as Kaithaba had forcefully attacked the Supreme Personality of Godhead when the universe was inundated. Text 2. Then Vrutrashura, the great hero of the demons, whirled his trident, with, which had points like the flames of the blazing fire at the end of the millennium. With the great force and anger, he threw it at Indra, roaring and exclaiming loudly, O sinful one, thus shall I kill you. Text 3. Flying in the sky, Rudrashora's trident resembled a brilliant meteor. Although the blazing weapon was difficult to look upon, King Indra, unafraid, cut it to pieces with his thunderbolt. Simultaneously, he cut off one of Rudrasura's arms, which was as thick as the body of Vasuki, the king of the serpents. Text 4. Although one of his arms was severed from his body, Vrutrasura angrily approached King Indra and struck him on the jaw with an iron mace. He also struck the elephant that carried Indra. Thus Indra dropped the thunderbolt from his hand. Text 5. The denizens of various planets like the demigods, demons, charanas, and siddhas prized Vitra's deed, but when they observed that Indra was in great danger, they lamented, alas, alas. Text 6. Having dropped the thunderbolt from his hand in the presence of his enemy, Indra was practically defeated and was very much ashamed. He dared not pick up his weapon again. Rudrashura, however, encouraged him, saying, take up your thunderbolt and kill your enemy. This is not the time to lament your fate. Text 7. Rudrasura continued, O Indra, no one is guaranteed of being always victorious but the original enjoyer, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, and He knows everything, being dependent and being obliged to accept material bodies. Belligerent subordinates are sometimes victorious and sometimes defeated. Text 8. All living beings in all the planets of this universe, including the preceding deities of all the planets, are fully under the control of the Lord. They work like a bird caught in a net who cannot move independently. Text 9. Our sensorial prowess, mental power, bodily strength, living force, immortality, and mortality are all subject to the superintendents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not knowing this, foolish people think the dull material body to be the cause of their activities. Text 10. O King Indra, as a wooden doll that looks like a woman, or as an animal made of grass and leaves cannot move or dance independently, but depends fully on the person who handles it. All of us dance according to the desire of the supreme controller, the personality of Godhead. No one is the independent. Text 11. The three puras, Karnodakshai Vishnu, Garbhodayaka Vishnu, and Kshirodayaka Vishnu, the material nature, the total material energy, the false ego, the five material elements, the mental sense, material senses, the mind, the intelligence and consciousness cannot create the material manifestation without the directions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 12. A fool is senseless person cannot understand the supreme personality of Godhead, although always dependent. He falsely thinks himself the supreme. If one thinks according to one's previous fruitive actions, one's material body is created by the father and mother, and the same body is annihilated by another agent. As another animal is devoured by a tiger. This is not a proper understanding. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself creates and devours the living beings through other living beings. Thank you so much, devotees. I can stop here, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Radha Mataji, Hare Krishna. Yeah, so we'll start the discussion today with prayers. Om Agnanati Mirandasya Gnanajana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So let me, it's a wonderful section of Srimad Bhagavatam. So where we are in the oral pastime of Vritrasura is a fight between Vritrasura and Indra. So we already had the background about how this fight came about because of Indra making an offense to his guru, and then Indra killing the Brahmana, and then somehow Vritrasura was created to kill Indra, but then there was a mistake in mantras. All those details we heard. But essentially, in the last chapter, we heard the fight between Vritrasura and Indra. Specifically, Vritrasura showing his prowess, and then Vritrasura speaking to his own team, soldiers who are running away from battlefield, not to go away, show the heroism like that. And he was instructing Indra to not fight after them, instead fight with him like that. And then towards the end of the last chapter, we heard prayers from Vritrasura also to Supreme Lord. Now this chapter is continuing. This chapter is titled Vritrasura's Glorious Death. In other words, Vritrasura's return back to Godhead. That is another way you can say the same title. So there are beautiful, beautiful lessons in this chapter, especially in the first section. The first 12 verses we're discussing today. We have the overall theme of this section is how we should do our work dutifully, with detachment and with the devotion. That is the overall theme for this section, whole section. And towards that end, how we can depend on Krishna, how we can do work with a dutifulness, dependence, and detachment and devotion, that he conveys with indicating the Supreme Lord Krishna's position and how he's fully independent, how he's in full control of everything, how everything is in his control. And then also describing how we as Jiva, living entities, how we are in full control of Supreme living being, Supreme Krishna, Supreme Lord Krishna. That means how we are not independent fully, we are dependent on Krishna. So through that, he explains how we should do work with detachment, dutifulness, and devotion to Krishna. So with that understanding, we'll discuss verses going forward, remembering the consciousness in which we do the work, the consciousness of depending on Krishna always. That is the overall theme. Okay. So now, so one thing to remember in this set of verses is what is driving Vritrasura to talk all these things, do all these things. That is the important thing to remember. So that is Prabhupada is highlighting also in the first set of purports. Basically, in the first verse, the way it starts is desiring to give up his body. Vritrasura considered death in the battle preferable to victory. So that is giving itself indication. Vritrasura, like any devotee, he always wants to engage in service to Krishna. One of the best ways to engage in service in Krishna without any interruptions, without any disturbances, is to engage in service of Krishna in the spiritual world. So, be considering this goal, ultimate goal of engaging in devotion service to Krishna, Vritrasura is wanting to give up his body so that he'll go back to Sankarsana, his worshipable deity, and serve him without any interruptions. So that is the overall desire of Vritrasura. So if I don't know, some of you might have heard the Sunday class we discussed also. So similarly, we as practicing devotees, we act according to the ultimate goal of life, ultimate desire we should have. So that way, the ultimate desire, ultimate goal, ultimate resolution we have is to be constantly engaged in pure devotion service to Krishna. So somehow, through the practice of life and devotion, we need to make that goal as the strongest goal for us. When we prioritize that goal as the highest goal, ultimate goal, and highest priority for us, then we can see everything in our life according to, in accordance with that goal, in suitableness to that goal, in preference to that goal first, like that. That is where we are going in devotion. Because initially we have devotion as a goal also, and I want this also, I want this also, I want this also, like that. But ultimately, we should have that ultimate goal as a service to Krishna, and then everything else will fit into that ultimate goal only if it fits in. That means if it's favorable to ultimate goal, we accept it. Otherwise, we don't accept it, like that. Yeah. Now, continuing further, what did Vritrasura do with that desire? Then again, there I'll mention two things. Basically, in the first set of verses, he's reprimanding or chastising Indra, number one. In the next set of verses, he's actually physically attacking Indra with a trident, like that. Trident and mace, I think. So, but why he's doing both these two things? With the desire that Indra should fight back. Indra should fight with his Vajrayudha, which is empowered by Krishna already to kill Vritrasura, so that he can be killed, so he can go back to service of Krishna as soon as possible. With that desire, he is doing these two things, reprimanding Indra and then fighting physically with Indra. So we'll see the first set of verses, reprimanding Indra. So what does he say? Mm, so he's first two verses are describing Vritrasura sent his trident weapon onto Indra. So is described, he put it with great force and anger, like that. And he was roaring and exclaiming loudly like a Kshatriya, "Oh, sinful one, thus shall I kill you," like that. So that's a warrior spirit, Kshatriya spirit. Kshatriyas not only show their warrior, their valor by physical strength, but they also speak chivalrous word to incite the anger in the enemy, to fight, to give a real fight like that. So that's what he's doing. So continuing further, um, so in the next set of verses, specifically verse number 6, he describes actually Rudrasura when he let me go to the previous verse also. 1 second, let me pull it up. In the Bhagavatam. So after Vritrasura threw the trident, the third verse is describing the the trident is being glorified. King Indra, what did he do? He used his thunderbolt to do what? Not to kill Vritrasura. He used his thunderbolt to cut the trident to pieces. And also simultaneously, he cut off one of the Vritrasura's arms, which was very strong, it seems. So now Vritrasura is standing with only one arm. So now, interesting, text 4. Vritrasura, even though one arm is cut off, he didn't say, oh my God, I cannot win this fight anyway. Let me give it up. Let Indra kill me. I don't do anything like that. Even though he knows, even though his desire is to get killed by Indra, even though he understands that will help him to go back to Krishna sooner, but he still is giving a fight. Why? This is showing the dutifulness of a devotee. That is what we can learn. And then another reason, Vritrasura, even though one arm is cut off, what does he do? He he struck Indra with an iron mace. It is described. So that actually struck the elephant Airavata of Indra also, and Indra happened to drop his Vajrayuda also because of that. So one is we are learning the dutifulness of Vritrasura through this verse, that is continuing to fight, and even though he understands ultimately will be get killed by Vajra, the weapon that Supreme Lord gave to Indra. So, but he's not giving up. He's still continuing to do his duty during that time. That is one lesson. Second lesson from this section is Uttarasura actually is showing by his own example to Indra that irrespective of the circumstance, we continue to do our duty with whatever Krishna has given intelligence and ability to us. That's what Vitrasura is showing by his personal example here also. So now, in the coming verse, text number 5, all the demigods, Vidyadharas, Charanas, Siddhas, they're all looking carefully. On one end, mm, they're uh, they're happy seeing Vitrasura's valor, but on the other end, they're worried seeing that Indra is in great danger. So they're saying Allahs, Allahs like that. Now going to text number 6. So this is the audience reaction Sukadeva Goswami is giving for us. So now text 6. Now Indra dropped, now that the Vajrayuda is dropped from his hands of Indra, so Indra was practically defeated and he was very feeling shameful also. So he did not feel like, oh my God, he defeated me already. Uh, it doesn't befit me. I'm great Indra. How can I pick up the weapon that is God dropped again? Like that, Indra has some pride. He's thinking like that. That's why he doesn't pick up the Vajrayuda again. Seeing that Indra is not acting in his duty, Indra is not continuing in his fight, Vritrasura instructs him. Vritrasura encourages Indra, saying, take up your thunderbolt and kill your enemy. Vritrasura himself is telling like that. And he says, this is not the time to lament, not to time to lament your fate like that. So again, why is Vritrasura encouraging Indra? Because he wants to get killed in his hands, because he knows that is Supreme Lord's will, that is plan of Supreme Lord, that with the Vajrayuda of Indra, he is supposed to get killed. He understands that. That's why he's encouraging Indra to fight again. So now Vritrasura continues to encourage Indra uh, to give him a proper fight. So from this section onward, from this verse onwards, Vritrasura is really telling that how, even though I am thinking I am the doer of everything, I am the doer of getting all the result, ultimately Krishna is arranging all the results. Ultimately, Krishna's mercy only decides on result, and Krishna's will only decide, uh, gives us the result like that. And everything is in Krishna's control, and we are not independent. We are dependent on Krishna's will. That is the lesson from this verse onwards. Vritrasura is giving to us, and also to Indra. So Vritrasura says, "No one is guaranteed of being always victorious, but the original enjoyer is Supreme Lord." So we cannot expect that I am the supreme controller. Everything I want only will happen. Everything will happen the way I want only. Everything will happen the way I can control everything the way I want. We cannot think like that, because only sometimes it can happen like that. Sometimes it can go against us also. But for Supreme Lord, it can happen every time the way He wants only. It will happen. That is the first point He's making. And why is it so? Because Supreme Lord is very powerful. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation also. And Supreme Lord knows everything. And we are just dependent. And his last instruction in this verse is saying, um, because we are dependent on Supreme Lord's strength, Supreme Lord's power, and because we are dependent, and that is why sometimes we get victory, sometimes we get defeat, but ultimately Krishna is in full control. We are not in full control, is describing like that. Srila Prabhupada in the purport elaborates on this theme for us to indicate the consciousness of a practicing devotee. He describes that how one should fully depend on Krishna, who is responsible for the victory and defeat of all living entities. So, uh, Prabhupada writes in the purport, we should not be jubilant in victory. We should not be overly joyed in the victory, or we should not be morose in defeat also. With what understanding? With understanding that Krishna is in full control and everything is sanctioned by Krishna. With that understanding, and then we should make a sincere effort in carrying out the will of Krishna, which is for us to grow in devotion to Krishna and to help others to grow in devotion to Krishna. While carrying out that will of Krishna, we should be making sincere effort without worrying about what is the result like that. So our only duty is to work sincerely so that our activities will be pleasing to Krishna. That's how Prabhupada concludes the purport. So in essence, whatever endeavor we're making, that itself is pleasing to Krishna. Whether the endeavor results gives proper results that we want or not doesn't matter. That is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. That Krishna is just pleased that we are making our best effort. So that is why our goal in Krishna consciousness is to make our best effort to our best of our ability, best of our knowledge, best of our intelligence. As long as we do that, Krishna is pleased. That is the definition of success for our devotees, practicing devotees. Our definition of success is not, I need to get this, I need to get that, I need to get that, like that. So as long as we're endeavoring to please Krishna, Krishna is pleased with us. And that is success, number one. So then, does that mean that we don't have a goal to achieve in Krishna consciousness? Does that mean that we don't set goals for our services? No, we do set a goal. That way, we can endeavor sincerely to serve Krishna towards that goal. But we understand ultimately whether I reach that goal or not is dependent on Krishna's mercy only and Krishna's sanction only. But doing my part is my service to Krishna. With that understanding, with that devotional understanding, we keep doing our duty in a dutiful way with full vigor, with full of capacity. We do our duties nicely. So that is a way of working, art of working with devotion to Krishna, with dutifulness, and with detachment also. So going to the next verse, text number 8. Now Dhritarashtra is describing, in the previous verse he described how Krishna is a supreme controller, because that he can be always victorious. We may not be always victorious like that. So he's describing how Krishna is the supreme controller, is describing now in text 8. He's saying all living beings in all the planets of the universe, including the demigods also, they're all fully under the control of the Lord. That means Lord is in full control of all living beings, including the demigods also, number one. So one analogy is giving, like the birds that are caught in a net, they cannot move independently anymore now. Similarly, all the living beings cannot move independently, is describing. In this purport, Prabhupada is describing nothing can happen without desire of Krishna, number one. So we are acting according to the desire of Krishna, under the control of Krishna, and according to our karma. So none of us, whether we ourselves are Brahma, no one is independent. That is the point Prabhupada is stressing in the purport now. Yeah. So then next verse is describes, so how Krishna is in supreme control, how we are fully dependent. That is the two themes he is describing in this set of verses. Krishna is in full control and we are dependent on Krishna. Our sensory prowess, that means what we can do with our senses, working senses and knowledge sequence senses, and what we can do with our mind and intelligence, mental power. So our bodily strength, our living force itself, immortality and mortality, all are subject to the superintendence of Krishna. Everything is under the plan of Krishna, and everything is under the control of Krishna, is describing. Not knowing this, foolish people think our material body is the cause of all activities that we are doing like that. So this is emphasizing the principles we learn in Bhagavad Gita also, that what we can do as endeavor is only one of the factors of the actions. Other factors of action are dependent on Supreme Lord's will, Supreme Lord's time, energy, and also whatever we are able to do the endeavor also, that power to, that ability to do the work, or that intelligence to do the work is also given by Krishna only. Because if Krishna doesn't give the intelligence, Krishna doesn't give the ability, doesn't give the bodily strength, we cannot do the endeavor also, which is one of the factors of action. So that is what we need to realize as Krishna's devotees. When we realize that whatever I'm doing is by Krishna's mercy only, by Krishna's grace, Krishna's power only, then we'll not become proud, overly proud, and will be situated in a humble position, which is actually required for us to go back to Godhead like that. So that's what Vritrasura is describing through this verse for us. Going to 10th verse, he's further describing how we're dependent on Krishna. Oh Indra, a wooden doll that looks like a woman or as an animal made of grass cannot move or dance independently. How a doll cannot move by itself, but we can touch it, we can move it to some place. How there is a puppet kind of doll that's kept in the fields, scarecrow they call it, right? With they keep a tiger form, but with made with grass inside, to scare some other animals and birds from coming like that, for example. So they cannot move independently. Somebody else need to move them. Similarly, all of us dance according to the desire of Krishna. No one is independent, is describing. So, because why is he telling all these things to Indra? He's telling, don't think you are the doer and you don't have capacity to kill me. Because ultimately, whatever you can do, whatever you can succeed in doing, is only by mercy of Krishna. So, all we need to do is do our duty. Then, based on Krishna's will, Krishna's desire, Krishna's sanction, the results will come accordingly like that. That is the reason Rutrasra is telling Indra about these things. Now going to the last two verses of today, he's still describing how Krishna is supremely independent, how Krishna is fully in control and we are dependent. In the 11th verse, he says, the three Purushas, Purushavasaras, Karnodaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and Kshirodaksha Vishnu. Even all the ingredients of the nature, the material nature itself, the total material energy, the false ego, five material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the material senses we have, the mind we have, the intelligence we have, the consciousness, everything, uh, all these material ingredients cannot make up the material world without the direction of Krishna. Prabhupada writes in the purport about referring to Bhagavata verses in this section. Maya Dakshana Prakriti Suyate Sa Characharam. That means material nature is working under the direction of Krishna, is not working independently. That is the point being made here. Same thing, Daiviyesha Gunamaya, Mamaya Durataya. So basically, everything under the supervision, under the control of Krishna, including material nature. So everything that is happening in the world is happening under the direction and control of Krishna. Some people may think because of this is happening, because of this is happening. That is partially correct. That is relative truth. But ultimately, the absolute truth, sanction is there. Absolute truth is the source of all the things that are happening in this world. Both material and spiritual energies, the source is Krishna, like that. So that is what is impressing on Indra, that everything is under control of Krishna. So last verse, 12th verse for today, he says, a foolish, senseless person cannot understand Krishna. Although he is always dependent, he falsely thinks, I am the supreme. Everything is dependent on me only. Like that he thinks, without Krishna in the picture. So another thing is describing here is, some people may think, oh, because of my good karma, I'm getting good enjoyment. That's all. There's no involvement of Krishna or Supreme Lord at all. I'm being born because of my karma, because my father and mother came together. That's why I'm born. I'm dying because I met with an accident. That's all. There's no involvement of Supreme Lord. Some people may think like that, but that's a foolish thinking is describing. He's saying Supreme Lord himself creates everything and devotes the living beings through other living beings like that. That means everything is under the control of Krishna. Some people may think Prabhupada is writing about Karma Mimamsa philosophy in the purport, which we know in Govardhan Pastam also. Krishna gives that philosophy to convince Nanda Maharaj that stop Indra's worship and start worshipping Govardhan. So that is not the right philosophy. That is the atheistic philosophy Krishna gives at that time. So now here also Prabhupada is describing that how no one is really independent. Everyone is dependent on Krishna. Because some people think that if I do good, I'll get good. If I do bad, I'll get bad. So all I need to do in life is do good. That's all. Nothing. As long as I do good, then uh, demigods cannot stop me giving me enjoyment. Supreme Lord, if he's there, he also cannot stop me giving enjoyment. They're bound to give whatever I'm supposed to get. If I'm doing good, I'm supposed to get good like that. That's the incorrect understanding they're saying. Why? Two reasons. One is, even though I get good karma, the result of good enjoyment comes by sanction of Krishna only. So it's in Krishna's control. He can still give enjoyment or not. So that is one thing. Krishna is the supreme controller, even beyond karma. Number one. Number two, uh, just just because I resolve to do good only, I cannot stop doing sin in this world unless I'm Krishna conscious. Because just the fact I'm speaking, lot of gems are going and dying. Just the fact that we are cooking, the lot of insects are dying. Just the fact that we're walking, lot of insects are dying. So we cannot control sin we are doing. Uh, every small sin that we are doing, we can control some sin that we are doing, not every small sin that we are doing. So that means, but if we do everything for Krishna's pleasure, then it will become akarma. There's no binding to us with the work that we are doing. That's a principle that we all need to learn, that by Krishna conscious only, we can be free of bondage due to work that we are doing, we can also please Krishna by Krishna consciousness, and by doing beautiful detached work with devotion. That's so we can please Krishna. That's so we can do our part that Krishna has designated for us in this lifetime, like that. So overall, I'll share a few principles on this theme of dependence on Krishna. First of all, we're all dependent on Krishna. We learnt already through the explanation of Vritrasura. Everything, all the resources we have in a disposal, the earth itself where we are living, the air we are breathing, the water we are drinking, all the resources are given by Krishna, number one. Number two, the body we have is given by Krishna, the intelligence we have is given by Krishna, the knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness is awarded by Krishna. Matta smritir gnanam apohanam cha. Smritir gnanam apohanam. Uh, Smritir means remembrance, gnanam knowledge, and apohanam forgetfulness. Everything Krishna only gives according to our desire and what we deserve, like that. So our abilities, our intelligence, our resources are all given by Krishna. So we don't have anything independent that we can do. So now that will help us to realize that how much we are dependent on Krishna. For example, the ability to speak is given by Krishna. The strength we have is given by Krishna. So he can take it away anytime he wants. That when we understand that, then we don't become proud, and we instead use that resources, that abilities that Krishna has given to serve Krishna instead. So that is the first aspect, how we are all fully dependent on Krishna. Second aspect is how Krishna is fully independent. We already talked about it, how Krishna is the creator of the whole universe, whole creation itself. Krishna, overnight, he just thought about it, and Dwaraka got created overnight. Overnight, everybody got transported from Madura to Dwaraka, like that. How Krishna can do anything, that is his supreme independence. Nobody needs to sanction for Krishna, like that. And we also talked about how Karma Mimamsa philosophy is not a correct understanding, because even results of karma, Krishna is giving only, we understand. Now, two more aspects I'll briefly touch. One aspect is how we can cultivate this dependence on Krishna. One is by understanding from scriptures how everything we can do, we are able to do, is coming from Krishna. The ability, intelligence, resources are coming from Krishna. Number one, you understand by reading scriptures. Second thing is we develop faith on Krishna by our everyday experiences that we're having currently, also in the past also. We develop faith in Krishna. What kind of faith in Krishna? That Krishna is my well-wisher. Krishna is my protector. Krishna will take care of me. That faith we develop in Krishna through our practice of devotion service, and through practice of our consciousness of depending on Krishna, like that. And through prayers also we can develop dependence on Krishna. Krishna, please help me to depend on Krishna, depend on you, like that we can pray. For example, we encounter so many scenarios in life where we don't have a solution what to do. Even we know, we might think what to do, but we are not able to do. Or even if we are able to do, we cannot control the result will happen the way we want. When we are encountering such difficult situations, we need to learn to take shelter of Krishna. This is the essence of bhakti, to develop the humility. Oh, I cannot do what I want. I need to depend on Krishna. And so that humility and taking shelter of Krishna is what are the essential ingredients that we are learning when we encounter difficult circumstances in our life, like that. So that is the other thing, how we can depend on Krishna, how can improve our dependence on Krishna. And the last aspect, some devotees ask, when do we know, how do we balance when we depend on Krishna and when we give up, when we depend on Krishna and give up, or when we do our best efforts, like that. It's not either or situation. Both are extreme situations to be avoided. Depending on Krishna and neglecting everything, or doing everything as is dependent on me but forgetting about Krishna. Both are not recommended. The balanced approach is do the best we can with the ability, intelligence, resources that Krishna gave us. Understanding that only because of Krishna giving us those things, we're able to do something by ourselves. With that understanding, devotional understanding, we do our best with things that are in our control, that are under our influence, what we can influence. That is one thing. And then there are things that are not in our control. How many inches snow comes, how much rain comes, what will happen after 1 year, that is not in my control. So for those, I depend on Krishna only. Krishna, you do the best for me so that I can continue in devotional service. I have the spiritual strength to deal with life circumstances, but I can continue devotional service. You deal with it. Please help me. Like that, for what we are beyond us, we depend on Krishna. For what is within our control currently, we depend on ourselves, our given strength, ability, and intelligence by Krishna, and resources by Krishna. We depend on those with the mood that Krishna has given me this ability also, like that. So that's how we strike a balance between depending on Krishna versus doing our best efforts, still not being lazy and not being inactive. Yeah, that is how we can deal with it. So these are some thoughts. We can pause here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kupasindubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much, devotees. Hare Krishna.